Donald Trump and his allies have been saying for some time that they hope to end the Epstein matter or release something and make it quiet down, and certainly by Labor Day. Well, it's not going according to their plan. Congress is returning to Capitol Hill. You got a bipartisan duo that wants to force a House vote requiring Trump's DOJ to release all the Epstein documents once and for all. Since for all the double talk, Trump's administration is clearly not doing that. The same duo says they will hold a press conference with Epstein survivors on the first day Congress returns from recess. Now, I can tell you here in the newsroom, we hear about a lot of press conferences, and sometimes you look and say, this is important, maybe we'll cover it. Other times you look and you say, maybe it's a political gimmick. It always depends on the news of the day. You watch the news, so you probably know that. But it would be a good bet that a lot of people online and in the news media will be wanting to cover some version of that news conference, considering that Trump has open questions, he has not fulfilled his vows for transparency, and substantively, it matters when victims, some of whom have never appeared in this formulation together, speak out about what they say is the Trump administration's failures. So that is pressure. House Democrats also looked over this first batch of documents that were kind of pushed out here in the summer period from DOJ and say most of them are not new. They were basically already public. The DOJ did release something new, its unusual interview with the Epstein co-conspirator Maxwell, but that's raised a lot of questions amidst these blanket denials.
I never, ever saw any man doing something inappropriate with a woman of any age. And I did introduce him to women, I did, but not underage women. So I never saw an aggressive move. I never saw anything that was
non-consensual.
Well, thank you. Okay. I never saw anything that was non-consensual.
That's the voice of a sex trafficking convict disclaiming things she was already convicted of. It undercuts her credibility and speaks to the farce of that interview, according to many legal experts. We have one on hand, as you see, Joyce Vance, former U.S. attorney, MSNBC legal analyst. Welcome back. Joyce, the trickle or drip of some information or sometimes recycled information from DOJ seems to be raising more questions. They want to claim they're releasing stuff, but the big stuff they haven't released yet, and what they have released looks fairly stale. What does that tell you about sort of where they're at with a president who once claimed there would be transparency in this case?
Well, and that's exactly the issue here, Ari. DOJ was under no obligation to release its case files. But Donald Trump, the president, the head of the executive branch, their boss, said that there would be transparency. And so the fact that they've backtracked, I think, raises a lot of legitimate suspicions and concerns about what might be in that evidentiary file if it were released. So far, we've seen two dodges. We've seen this ridiculous end run, this attempt to get the courts to release grand jury material, which failed. And in the process of that, we learned that the only thing that was involved there was two summary witnesses testifying. So nothing new there. And then we have this release, this dump of information vouched for by Representative Comer, which turns out to be nothing new. And so at some point, you know, you don't have to be a former federal prosecutor to have your little ears pick up and wonder what it is that they're trying to keep from the American people.
Mm-hmm. And jailhouse statements, be they issued in this unusual interview format, or what sometimes happens, as you know, in cases where there's things that are captured that an inmate says to another inmate or in a context, they don't have automatically high credibility. We're talking about convicts. Sometimes we're talking about people who are trying to barter or trade information or continue to clear their own name for whatever their own personal reasons. And so when Maxwell went on and on about how nothing bad ever happened, I played one part, I'm about to play you another, I'm wondering what it tells you about her credibility, because the administration wanted to release this to say, look, here's a character witness for Donald Trump, in a sense. And that's so bizarre because a convicted sex trafficker is a terrible character witness. Here she was. Take a listen.
I saw him with lots of masseuses. I never saw a single masseuse ever look unhappy or not come back or whatever. So based on my observation, I don't think that if you are being raped, as now he's like this prolific, I just can't imagine why you would return.
It's not what you observed at the time.
Not what I observed at the time, no.
So Blanche sort of gives her this open door, and she talks about how whatever the ring of activities, including these so-called masseuses, were happening, Epstein never did anything in her observation that caused anyone to be concerned. I'll let you have the easy job of analyzing and fact-checking this. I'll just say it sounds ludicrous because we know these people were concerned because we have their testimony. Some of them are going to be speaking out next week. We know they were concerned after their interactions with the now deceased defendant Epstein.
It's really hard to imagine a less credible witness. The only thing that matters here isn't my assessment of Maxwell or your assessment. It's the jury's assessment. They heard all of the evidence. They heard her defense. They found her guilty. A unanimous jury of her peers convicted her. Look, she's sitting in federal prison. We all understand the game. Her case is still on appeal. She has hope, perhaps, that her conviction will be turned and she might be able to get her life back. It seems very unlikely to me, having studied the briefs, that she has anything there, but we understand what the game is. And I think your point here is so important. These victims who are willing to come forward, it's not easy. And it's especially difficult in the current context where someone like Donald Trump sits in the White House. And we now live in a world that treats women very differently than the world treated women even several years ago. So these victims are engaging in an act of bravery, trying to make sure that the truth is what shines through all of this. The fact that the Justice Department released this tape is really, as you say, just a ludicrous exercise. You hear Todd Blanche literally putting words in the witness's mouth. You hear him offering her up as a credible source. We all know that she isn't.